For half of my life, my biggest enemy, something I've been obsessed with, something I hated, and something I have been thinking 90% of time was food. This obsessive attention to food is called eating disorders, and it affects 9% of people on our planet, which means every 1 or 2 people out of 10 you see in the street are suffering the same thing. While eating disorders seem to be something about food, the true reason lies much deeper, and I learned what it is only 14 years into my journey. It all started with a pretty typical thing. I got unsatisfied with my body as a teenager at the age around 12. I decided to diet, but I was stubborn enough to diet myself to health issues, into absolute minimum of body fat possible. My health was starting to suffer, my hair was falling out, and my parents were extremely scared. Back in times, eating disorders were not a popular thing and no one knew what to do with it. Luckily, I went through this phase of very dangerous weight loss by myself, and I was spending most of my time by myself, studying really hard, so no people could really talk to me. Luckily, I passed through this very dangerous phase of weight loss by myself, because at some point I got to spend more time with other kids and enjoy toasts with Nutella. So this phase passed just like a teenager thing, and no one really thought more about it. But it was just the beginning of the journey, because once I started eating, I started overcompensating for years of depriving myself of food, and I couldn't resist anymore. So I developed a whole list of behaviors. I forgot what hunger is, and I was eating because of emotions. I was introducing rules to deprive myself, like I started eating carbs besides breakfast, but at the same time I was constantly binging. And at the same time I was trying to compensate with a ton of sports, and I started running 5K, then 10K, and then my weekend runs were like 15K, so I tried to exhaust myself with exercise whenever I binge. On the top, I couldn't focus on anything about food. Trust me, I was thinking about food 90% of time. And by the way, here are Instagram pictures from that period, and they're all highly photoshopped because I was not accepting my body at all. And the worst thing is, I was so obsessed with my body image that nothing else in life mattered. No accomplishments in university, no accomplishments at work, no relationship, no trips. I felt like I don't deserve anything until my body is picture perfect. So I was missing out on everything, and who knew how much in life I would miss out on, and what a dark place I would be in if I didn't start to fight this enemy. And for a very long time I was actually fighting the wrong enemy. For all the 14 years into my issue, I was fighting food. So I was trying to eat less, and I was trying to fight food, but not fight the underlying cause that was much bigger and much more serious. And you may think that a person with such psychological problems is someone very visible and very easy to identify. And trust me, it is completely not. Alongside with my eating issues, I finished the best business school in the country. I went to a very prestigious exchange to another country. I started my internship and then my work at Google. I started a company with my family, and I was competing in long distance running. So I looked like a super cool achiever, and many people wanted to look up to me. But here where the issue was. By the way, this type of a personality, an achiever, a person that is very stubborn and very driven and very goal-focused, and one who always achieves their goals, they are precisely the people who are extremely likely to develop eating disorders. And working on an eating disorder is extremely hard. Imagine an alcoholic who wants to stop drinking, and instead of taking alcohol completely away from them, you tell them, look, now you'll have a bit of alcohol 3 to 5 times a day, and you actually cannot completely stop having alcohol, but you have to stop being dependent on it. But food is always with us, and we need it, and this is why it's so much harder to cure eating disorders sometimes. But then I arrived at a point in my life when I decided to really fight the issue. It was not about body image anymore, but it was about allowing myself to finally enjoy life. And honestly, back in time, it was a situation on the running track. I went to another exhausting run after an exhausting day of work, and more exhausting work was awaiting for me in the evening. And at some point, I just couldn't run anymore. My body was completely shutting down. My mind and my body were extremely exhausted. And I realized if I don't fight it now, I'll probably miss out on whole of my life. And at the same time, fighting this issue felt extremely hard. I was failing for 14 years. Imagine you're failing for most of the half of your life, and you still want to fight the issue. And I came to the mirror and I told myself, Even if this takes 10 years, I would at least start enjoying my life in my 40s than never even have a chance. So I started therapy. I started, and at the same time, some nutrition coaching. I was doing a diary of my thoughts and my emotions every single day, and it turned out that the underlying issue was that I was completely overworked and I did not allow myself to really rest. And this is how my body was trying to rest. My body was trying to get a break by going to the kitchen, and then my body was trying to replenish some energy deficits from just overeating. So I had to completely change my behaviors and incorporate some rest into my life. And the journey took me 12 months of daily work and daily improvements of my habits. I wasn't perfect 100% of time, and if you're fighting the same issue, don't expect yourself to be perfect from the day one. Now 2 years passed after my intense therapy, and 95% of time I'm completely free of thoughts of food. I enjoy food a lot and I'm not afraid to eat. 5% of times a bell may rank somewhere far away, and don't expect to be perfect. If you're fighting the same battle, just know that therapists and coaches help greatly, that it may not be easy, but it's so much worth of fighting it. And now after fighting this issue, I have so much confidence in working with anything else. I will share exact steps that I took over my 12 months of therapy in my next video.